Call the meeting to order and ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning and welcome to a very cold January 3rd, 2017 County Commission meeting. I would remind you to silence your cell phones, and the meeting documents on the end of the counter next to Commissioner Bender. If you need a listening device, Robert is in the front and he can help you with that. And we will start with the swearing-in ceremony of newly elected County Commissioners Gene Bender, Dean Karski, County officials Aaron McGowan, and Pam Nelson, and by our Honorable Judge Long. So, Judge, do you want to come up to the microphone, please?
Be on the record.
You're going to be on the record.
I'm Larry Long. I am the presiding circuit judge, and it is my honor to be invited to administer the various oaths. Carol gave me copies, and she put them in alphabetical order and suggested that that's how we proceed, and so with your permission, counsel, I will do that.
Okay. And Judge, I'm going to have you stand on this side of the screen and pull the microphone this way, and then you can face whichever official is being sworn in this morning.
If I might make a suggestion, whoever's taking the photos ought to have some influence on where we stand. So, who are the photographers? Mr. Bender, I know, is one. Okay. Well, we don't want to make it difficult for you then. All right. Where do you want us to be?
Just where you're at.
Okay.
That's fine.
Very well. Mr. Carson.
Nope.
Yes. Yes, you may have. Yep, Janelle, you can come up and stand next to him.
Want me to do this or this?
You know, I think we're going to let you make that choice. Ma'am, will you stand right here?
This stand behind you.
Okay.
All right.
Please say aye.
I,
State your name
Dean Karski,
and repeat after me. Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of South Dakota,
of the State of South Dakota,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of my said office
of my said office
of Minnehaha County Commissioner.
of Minnehaha County Commission.
Mr. Karski, I would shake your hand, except we'll do it this way. Congratulations. And the original is right up there for you to sign. Go for it.
Just an X, I'll do it.
Ms. Bender. These must be alphabetical by first name.
I know, I was like.
Is that okay?
No?
She's got, oh, she's got.
It's a well-worn Bible.
All right.
It's small.
Very well. All right. Please, listen. State your name and repeat after me.
Gene Bender,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of South Dakota,
of the State of South Dakota,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of my said office
of my said office
of Minnehaha County Commissioner.
of Minnehaha County Commissioner.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Say these were alphabetical.
Well, I thought, but
I'm not taking responsibility.
That's right. Next time, don't read the notes.
Mr. McGowan. state your name.
I, Aaron McGowan,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the state of South Dakota,
of the State of South Dakota,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of my said office
of my said office
of Minnehaha County State's Attorney.
of Minnehaha County State's Attorney.
Congratulations.
Judge?
Aaron.
Ms. Nelson. Please raise your right hand. Say aye and state your name.
I, Pam Nelson,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the state of South Dakota,
of the State of South Dakota,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of my said office
of my said office
of Minnehaha County Treasurer.
of Minnehaha County Treasurer.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your honor for coming down. Yes, you've got some papers to sign. Again, thank you. And welcome aboard to all the elected officials today. It's always nice to have a new member to our board. Welcome, Dean, and I'm glad to have back Jean and Pam Nelson and Aaron McGowan, too. So with that, we will move on with routine business, which I look for a motion to approve the agenda for today.
Motion to approve?
Madam Chair, it is special business still at this point. It's not
Yes.
routine.
Okay, we're still in special business, but I still need a motion to approve the agenda for today.
I'll second Jean's motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 3 is selection of the commission chairperson for 2017. We're open for nominations, please.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Gerald Benega as the chair for 2017.
I have a motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Abstain.
Motion passes 4-1. 4 to 1. Abstinence. And I'm going to switch seats.
You don't want my cold.
I don't want your cold coffee.
Thank you. And now we will take nominations for vice chair for 2017.
Make a motion to nominate Jean Bender for vice chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other nominations? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
I'll abstain.
You'll abstain also. Thank you. Item number 5 is a designation of the official county newspaper. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carol Muller, Commission Administrative Officer. Yes, at the first meeting of the year is when you determine the 3 legal newspapers according to South Dakota codified law. For 2016, these newspapers have been the Argus Leader, Minnehaha Messenger, and the Garrettson Gazette. In the memo that has been prepared for you, you will note that we have proposals from the Garrettson Gazette at 33.8 cents per line. Their circulation is 578. The Minnehaha Messenger, 30.42 cents for proceedings and 38.8 cents per line for legals. Their circulation is 595. The Argus Leader at 49 cents per line, with their circulation being just over 71,000. The Del Rapids Tribune, 31.1 cents per line with a 10% discount for minutes, circulation of 4,356. And the Brandon Valley Challenger, 31.1 cents per line with a 10% discount for minutes, 4,605 is their circulation. The Argus Leader Media has proposed a combined cost of 55.5 cents per inch as a combo rate for the Del Rapids Tribune and Brandon Valley Challenger if you were to choose to select both of them. We do pay a lot of money during the year for publishing fees, and I did put some historical notes in there for you. You will note that overall, this contract usually covers about $100,000 worth of publishing between all the departments and legals that we need to do. So with that, I would open it up if you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Carol?
I have a comment, not necessarily a question for Carol. In looking at newspapers, I know we've kind of gone all around on this. I would at least bring it up for discussion that we would consider the Minnehaha Messenger, Del Rapids, and Argus. And the reason I'm suggesting that is the Minnehaha Messenger, I realize it doesn't have a lot of circulation comparatively to some of the others, but you're covering the west side of the county. With the Argus Leader, you're pretty much covering the whole county, and with the Del Rapids Tribune, you're also covering the kind of the northeast. So you have the northeast and the northwest side, and then the Argus Leader covering the whole entire area. So.
Anyone else have any comments?
Well, I guess, I mean, just given the circulation, and I don't know exactly that the Brandon Valley Challenger, we've historically printed over there. There's a large population that lives out on that east side and that reads that newspaper. So I'm not sure that I really understand. And given the deal that the Argus Leader's giving us for the combined Del Rapids and Brandon Valley Challenger, I'm not sure that it makes sense to me that we would do that.
Other comments, questions? Is there anyone here from the newspaper that would like to make comments? Your chance, Mark.
I'll just make one more comment, and I'm fine with whatever way the motion goes, and that is, in years past, this was several years ago, I think, when we approved, we did not put in the Brandon Valley Charger, just assuming that most of those people were reading the Argus Leader too, but you could make that same argument for any of those other papers too, so. Giving a small business access to the paper in the past.
Dean?
I'm just curious, we look at the circulation, the Argus Leader at 71,000, and I know that's daily where these others are, I believe, weekly publications, and I know like Brandon Valley Challenger and, the Garrison Gazette and the Minnehaha Messenger, et cetera, those stick around for an entire week because they are just a weekly publication. But when we look at the circulation, is that this is published on a certain day of the week in the Argus? Do you know how that
I
works?
don't know the answer to that. You'll notice that I've attached the memos that I received from them, and that was the communication that I received. Oh, they did put that in there. Daily readership of 63,000, while Sunday readership exceeds 71,248.
Mr. Walker has changed his mind. Are you going to write an editorial about this? Okay.
Well, I do think my name's Mark Walker, I work at the Argus Leader. I do think that 60,000 is our daily and the 70 is our Sunday. So I guess the 60 would go for Monday through Saturday. And our Sunday is our bigger paper, so that's where you would see the circulation jump, I would say. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
that can answer questions.
Anyone have any questions for Mark? Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to do the Argus, Del Rapids, and Brandon Valley. I agree with Jean.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any other comments, questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Item number 6 is to establish a record of non-elected department heads. And in your material, you have a list of those. I don't think we need to read those, do we? Or do we?
That would be a question. I certainly can read them through if you want to have them read into the record. Is
I
that your
think we have in the
preference,
past,
Olivia?
but there's no requirement.
Why don't you go ahead and read?
I will read those through. We have, for 2017, we have non-elected department heads, Carol Muller, Commission Office, Monty Waddenbach, Information Technology, DJ Buthy, Highway, Jamie Gravitt, Juvenile Detention Center, Mark Krins, Facilities, Bill Hoskins, Museum, Carrie Jo Deaver, Human Resources, Scott Anderson, Planning and Zoning and Parks, Julie Hofer, Public Advocate, Tracy Smith, Public Defender, Carrie Benz, Human Services, Diane Ripkema, Equalization, Lynn DeYoung, Emergency Management. And just for reference, because I know they're often asked, we also included 4 other people that you do work within those roles. Paul Niederinghouse, Metro Communications, Ralph Hammer, Weed and Pest, he's located at the Highway Department, Pat Krupa, which is the Veteran Service Officer located within Human Services, and Charles Martinell, the 4-H Advisor.
Thank you, Carol. Is there a motion to record those in the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to record those. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Item 7 is to appoint the Minnehaha County Coroner. Robert?
Good morning, Commissioners. Robert Wilson, also with the Commission Office. You have recently considered and approved a contract with Dr. Snell and Sanford Pathology for your 2017 coroner services, but also as a matter of business at your first meeting of the year, you have to appoint Dr. Snell as the coroner for Minnehaha County in 2017, and that is what this agenda item asks you to do.
Thank you, Robert.
I would make a motion to appoint Dr. Snell for this year.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any questions for Robert? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Item number 8 is a determination of the 2017 salary for Minnehaha County Commission. Carol?
Good morning. South Dakota Codified Law 7-7-5 requires that the Board of County Commissioners establish their salary at the first regular meeting of each year. If the board fails to determine a salary, the salary is set by statute, which in this case would be $8,193. Your salary for 2016, last year, was $26,390. The commission budget for 2017, when you had these discussions this summer going into this early fall, includes a salary of $27,000, and that was what was included in the budget as we created the final budget. General and union contract employees will receive a matrix adjustment of 2% for 2017. So you will note in there that as commissioners, in 2013, 14, and 15, the pay remained the same at $26,000. Last year, it was increased to $26,390. If you raise it to $27,000, or per the recommendation for us in order to work well with our payroll system, this number of $27,019.20. Let me say that one more time. $27,019.20. That would be an increase of $629, or an increase between 2000 and 2017, an increase of 3.9%, or less than 1% a year, as if you were to average that out.
Does anyone have any questions of Carol? Dr. Snell, your timing is perfect. We're already done.
Congratulations.
I'm sorry I had to go down to Lincoln County and actually do official swearing in by a judge and everything down there, so, and theirs was at 8:30, so, short of having a police escort, I got here as fast as I could. So, I was afraid if I did any faster, I might be talking to the sheriff.
Well, we appreciate your service. We did approve your contract, so you're in business in Minnehaha County again, and thank you for making the extra efforts, but we won't maintain or retain you for making you sit through the rest of the meeting if you wish.
Any questions you guys have?
Does Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Snell?
I'd like to know where you got that amazing tie.
I know, I was thinking the same thing.
Actually, this is from when I did internal medicine.
It's really good.
It's more fitting with what I do now than internal medicine.
Operation tie, that's very good. Very good.
I haven't put together our numbers from last year, but as you can imagine, we had a very, very busy last year, above previous years. Of course, our budget was
Mr. Chair.
a tiny bit in one area.
You're gonna, I'm sorry, but you do need to come to the microphone.
Sorry about that.
Then we can see your
Um,
tie,
As
too.
I said, we haven't finished putting together our numbers from last year, but we did have an above average number. Everything we did in December was above the previous year. So hopefully in the next month, we can finish off and get all of our numbers put together. We did go over a tiny bit of budget in one area, but that was not necessarily a surprise when we had such a bump in cases and everything. Of course, police, law enforcement, state's attorney has seen that bump, same as we have, so everybody has seen it. But hopefully this year will be a little bit of a quieter year for us, and we won't have as many cases, so. But again, if anybody needs anything, feel free to give me a buzz. Be happy to try to get over and chat with you guys anytime I can, okay?
Thank you, Dr.
Thanks, guys.
Snell.
Yeah.
We'll come back to item number 8. Mr. Litz?
Mr. Chair, I'd like some privilege to speak on this item that's before the commission right now. For the last 3 years, I have encouraged the commission to go ahead and put these pay raises in there. And I understand the arguments about civic duty and I guess the symbolism of not taking a pay raise, but if we compare marketable pay raises for commissions, they're somewhere between $29,000 and $32,000. And I think that, if we get this pay up there a little bit at a time, it will not have it won't have a big effect on the budget, and it would encourage others in the future to run for this job, which is an enormous amount of work for what you get paid. So there's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Other comments? Commissioner Bender?
Well, I think that, it's always difficult to figure out exactly where our pay should be, and especially when we set it ourselves. I'm comfortable, frankly, going with the pay that we set during budget, rounded up so that it's evenly divisible. I would like to follow up on a suggestion that Commissioner Kelly made in his final comments last week, that I think there is some merit to considering providing some extra compensation for the chair, given the additional work that's involved in serving in that position. Once again, it's difficult to figure out or come up with, exactly what that's worth. And what I would recommend, or what I would like to consider, is really more of a symbolic recognition of that extra effort. And I would like to consider just paying the chair an additional $1,000, which rounded up is $28,019.42 for the additional service involved in filling that responsibility.
Is that a motion?
I would make that a motion.
I would second that, if I could comment.
Certainly, go ahead.
Obviously, my time on the county commission is extremely limited to a few minutes now, but 5 years on the city council and going through those chairs and working as the council chair, I do know the additional workload and responsibility, and thank you, Commissioner Heiberger, for 3 years of serving as the chair. Last 3 years, it is extra demands, it is extra work, and it is a small amount of compensation, but I think it does need to be recognized, and I strongly support this, and I hope that the rest of the commission will do the same.
Other comments?
Just coming off of 3 years, I agree. I wouldn't have voted for it sitting as a chairperson since I'd been there. If I'd been re-elected as a chair this year, I would probably not have supported it. But I do support it because I know how much work it is. And I think that is important to compensate the chair an additional salary. So.
Well, I will abstain, obviously. Commissioner Barth?
Well, I have a lot of agreement on this as well, and I know that I checked on Woodbury County, which is Sioux City, has a budget 50% smaller than ours, and yet they pay their commissioners, I believe, $33,000 a year, and the chair gets $36,000 a year. But my only other thought would be, is $1,000 a number that works for the auditor's office and doing the payroll? If we're going to do that other stuff to make it come out right, do we need to have it be some coin different?
I had checked with Human Resources, and Bob, you can certainly chime in if you wanted to. The number that I gave was divisible.
Okay.
That's why it was such an odd number, so.
Any other comments or questions?
So do we have a motion?
No.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
don't-
we had a
oh,
motion in a second.
oh, okay. I noticed in the information, it says, it's got specific language. Is there a reason for that because of the resolution issue?
Yeah, simply put, you need to have a resolution specific to which commission positions you're giving which salary. So if you're going to do the additional amount for the chair, I would just make sure that you're amending that to make it clear that it's the chairperson who gets that additional compensation and the rest get that other salary. But it does need to be established by resolution, so that language is what's recommended.
So do we need an amended resolution?
I believe so.
I would make the amended resolution to what Commissioner Bender has suggested.
Move
So
to
it would
elect.
be a move to elect a salary rather than the per diem method of payment to the county commissioners, and set the 2017 annual salary for commissioners at $27,019.20, and for the chair of the commission at $28,019.42.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
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 Those opposed? And I'll abstain on that one. Item number 9 is to approve the resolution of election workers' pay schedule. Mr. Litz?
Morning again, Commission. Bob Litz from the Auditor's Office. Every year we do this here, and I don't think there's much of a chance of us having an election this year, but you never know. And so in preparation for that unanticipated event, I would recommend that we pass a resolution that would set the pay as it was in 2016. And just as a side note, in 2015, we've basically got the same pay structure in 2015, 2016, and 2017. In 2018, when we do this, I would like to probably amend some things, so that'll be coming down the pike. But as you can see, these rates are the same as they were in 2016, and I would ask for your approval.
Does anyone have any comments or questions for Mr. Litz?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a question, I guess.
Commissioner
Do we
Barth?
expect any elections this year?
Well, could we expect a hailstorm in January? And, I certainly don't know the answer to that, and given the volatile political climate out there, anything's possible, Mr. Barth.
I just have one quick question, if I might, did you have the same issues with recruitment as you had last year?
I put out an appeal, and all the TV stations picked it up, and I believe the Argus Leader did too. And we had a lot of people step forward, including a lot of retired teachers, and they have the skill sets that I really like, because they're used to dealing with parents, children, principals, school boards. They're organized, and they're not afraid of paperwork and technology. And so we had a pretty good turnout this year here for kind of getting some people in there that were under 70 years old. So not to criticize anybody with any age, but as time goes on, some of these election workers do opt to stay home for the elections, and we've got to replace them. So in 2018, I think that's going to be the bigger election again. And at that point there, I'd like to bring this, like I say, forward to look at just modifying this pay structure a little bit. Also, normally we would have a school election on an off year like this year, but the school has opted to take care of their own election, and it's my understanding they're going to do a hand count on that, so the county will not be involved at this point.
Thank you. That's a significant responsibility that people take for granted, but it's a long day, obviously, and those individuals, even if they are paid, it's a big commitment.
It's a big day, Commission, and most of those people, I mean, they like to get paid, but they're not there for that for the pay thing. As a matter of fact, we had a lot of people that thought they were volunteering for it and were quite pleased when it came out that they were being paid. So I think that to get that thing up to somewhere in market, and what do you do for a comp on election work? I mean, there's really nothing that I can compare it to. So yes, if we pass this here today, in the event that we do have an election, I think that most folks would be satisfied out there.
Thank you, Bob. We have a motion and a second to approve the election workers' pay schedule. Any other comments? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Item 10 is to consider a motion to set the county human services funeral rates for 2017. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carrie Benz with the Human Services Department. This morning I come before you to discuss and request a fee adjustment for the funeral fee allowance for 2017. This again, as earlier stated, is one of those items that needs to be done at this particular meeting. Per the statute of 342616, it identifies that the county is the individual or the party responsible for those individuals who pass away that are indigent. And so if you refer to the items that I had sent, there was a table that I had sent that identified over the past 10 years what we have paid, and it certainly has varied. The amounts have kind of gone back and forth. And so if you see in 2006, there was a real formula for doing that. And I'm not exactly sure, to be honest, where that came from. That was prior to my time with county. Whoever did that actually did a really great job of math, but our staff hated it. Then it really changed again in 2007. It went up a little bit. The numbers changed slightly. Obviously, then again in 2009, the amount changed again. And then the last change that occurred was back in 2012. And there was a decrease in not only the direct cremation, but then there was also just the flat amount for the $22.50 for the cremation with a memorial service. And then for the traditional burials with a casket, it went to $22.50 plus the grave liner. And then the opening and closing, that wasn't applicable. That was just included in that $22.50 plus the grave liner. The grave liner varied in cost, obviously pending what funeral home we were working with and the cost that we were charged for that. I'd also ask you to reflect on the graph that was forwarded to you in regards to the burials and the budgeted amount along with the expense. Obviously, as you can see, that amount that we've budgeted along with the amount that we've expended has also varied quite a bit. I do note that the amounts that we reflect here for 2016 are actually that of as of 12/20 of 16, so it wasn't through the end of the year. So there would be additional amounts added on to that. But in order to prep for the meeting, we wanted to make sure we had the meeting or the minutes and the amounts correct at that point. So obviously, the average, 8-year average from 2008 to 2015 is $148,000. What we've decided to do, and I visited with a couple of the funeral directors, one of which is here today, Phil Schmidt. We visited about setting just a flat fee. And that flat fee would actually be what we're asking for to be set at $2,000. And that would be irregardless of whether it was a casket burial or whether it was a cremation. It would just be a flat fee. That flat fee would be inclusive to all services regardless of the level of service. So it would be just a straight $2,000 flat fee. It's very similar to our cohorts, Lincoln County. They have a $2,500 flat fee. Obviously, probably the biggest or the most significant difference between us and Lincoln County is the number of funerals that we have. Obviously, the number of our funerals is significantly more than what Lincoln County has. I know some of the struggles that when I was visiting with the funeral directors, I know that a little bit of the struggles, obviously, is their costs increase, just like everyone else. We also know that, and as I explained to them, it also means that our county budget is extremely strapped and our funds are limited as well. And so in going through a lot of those numbers and doing a lot of pencil to paper, we decided that if we did the $2,000 flat fee, one of the things that we'd note is that we do more cremations now than what we ever have before. In this past year, when I was visiting with Phil, we actually noted that there were 3 casket burials this past year. And so it's much limited compared to the number of cremations that we have. And so by making it the flat fee, the expenditure is pretty straightforward. Regardless of the level of service, they would get paid $2,000. It was noted, and Phil, I've kind of said he's here, is welcome to comment with me, that if that were the case, they would like to, in the future, have the commission consider the removal of the outer burial container at the county cemetery. And if you have questions about that, I've asked Phil to explain that, since I by far am a pro in that category. So I don't believe that it's going to be a significant increase in regards to, or a significant problem in regards to managing the county cemetery. We already have that contract with Hills of Rest, and Phil is the one that goes out and does and organizes all of the funerals at the county cemetery, for which we have a contract with them for $5,000 for the year. Probably an item to note is Phil had identified that there would probably be the cost of having the machines come in and actually having to lower caskets in if we were going to not have the exterior liner. And so I don't believe that that is a significant problem. I think that the management of the cemetery is done well by our cohorts with the highway department. They're the ones that work with us on that and do the opening and closing, as well as the maintenance of the cemetery itself. So my recommendation stands at the $2,000 flat fee. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
You have any questions for Carrie? Commissioner?
Carrie, a little background if you don't mind, and thank you for the information. A lot of these questions came to my mind as you were talking, and having it in front of us is very helpful, so thank you. But can you tell me who and where the decision is made, whether it's a traditional burial or a cremation?
Families do have the right to make that decision. When they come to the county, if they end up coming to the county, probably, I want to say maybe 4, Carol, maybe you can tell me, was it 4 years ago that we developed, maybe 5, that we developed a form that we have the funeral homes utilize in regards to helping them determine whether someone needs to come or should be referred to the county. And that actually coming forward will be something that we'll present to the commission as part of what we'd like to adopt as our guidelines for the county, is that those forms are a part of that guideline, that they need to be completed. So typically the family goes to the funeral home, they meet with the director or one of their staff, discuss what they'd like to have, and from there, maybe Phil can best answer, if they meet those qualifications and the funeral home feels that they should come to the county for assistance, they then come and discuss with the county what they would like to see as part of the burial for that individual, whether it be the traditional burial, the casket burial, or whether they'd like to have cremation, and then services pending upon what they'd like to have for that as well. So it really does lie with the family member or the person making the application on behalf of the deceased.
And that choice is basically dictated by, I believe, state statute, from what I understand. Is that right? That the family has a choice by state statute to make that decision?
Yes, correct.
Good questions. Anyone else have any questions for Carrie? Mr. Schmitz, would you like to make some comments?
A little bit of input, Commissioners. Phil Schmitz, George Boone Funeral Home, and today I'd also am in partnership with the folks at Miller Funeral Home. So between the two of us, we provide, I think you said, about 2/3 of the county funerals in Minnehaha County. And then I also am at Hills of Rest, and as Carrie mentioned, we have the contract with the administrative part and seeing that the burials take place and the paperwork gets filed correctly, although the highway department actually does the digging of the grave. And so Carrie said there were 3 burials. That's 3 ground burials of casketed remains in the county cemetery. I don't know how many there were in other cemeteries because the county doesn't pay for those grave diggings in any other cemetery. And so going forward, I'm okay with the 2,000, or I should say Miller and George Boone Funeral Home are okay with that flat fee. But collectively, the wholesale cost of providing a casket and a grave liner for a family that would want exceeds the $2,000. So it's going to be our decision, and it is our decision, if this passes, that any family that is approved, and I'm going to take a step back. The intake form that the county developed is wonderful because it's a conversation about not only what type of funeral they want, but their ability to pay and all their family members' ability to pay. And what we're seeing a little bit is people just saying they don't want to pay, okay, which is different than not having the ability to pay. And so that's very common. So we feel, and we don't have statistics, we feel fully that about half the time that intake form prevents people from coming to Carrie's office and applying for it because they have some money, okay? And so we become, I call it price flexible. I would rather have a little bit more than what the county pays than not to cover our expenses because we don't want to leave anybody left behind. But at the same time, we as business people, can no longer afford to pay more in wholesale costs, plus donating all of our services. So what we intend to do is any family that we're going to, we think they meet the criteria, we send them down to the county offices as we will say, you have your choice of cremation with a memorial service or immediate cremation. If you want ground burial in any other place, except the county cemetery, you need to come up with that difference. Well, the problem with that is that if we accept money from the county, we're forbidden for getting more money, okay? So they're going to have to figure that out on their own. And that's why I asked Carrie to bring up the idea of no outer burial container at the county cemetery. So if they're truly don't have the ability to pay and they're opposed to cremation, that we could ground bury at the county cemetery without an outer burial container requirement, which is basically about a wholesale of $1,000, okay? And so, so they could, if they were opposed to cremation, they could have ground burial at the county cemetery. So there were 3 last year. What does that mean? It means that we still need to lower that casket respectfully into the ground, okay? And the wholesale cost of providing that is around $400 per burial, okay, within, you know, the county. And so that's the point that Carrie was talking about. We'd have a little additional expense. Let's just say there were 3 more, there were 3 casketed burials at the county cemetery. You'd have an additional $1,200. But if you didn't have any, you wouldn't have any. If you had 10, well, you can do the math. So anyway, you know, I know Minnehaha County has more county services than anybody else. And I would also tell you that on the reservation, the funeral home there had to close because they would only pay what the county rate was. And so they closed simply because there's not enough money. I mean, it was every time the funeral home had a burial, they went backwards. Okay, so it didn't take. It took a year, and they're out of business. Okay, we don't think that's going to happen here. But at the same time, I just want to say we won't accept, or at least our firm will not accept, if somebody wants ground burial, we're not going to be able to provide it. We're going to say you either need to make another decision, come up with the money someplace else, or choose another funeral home. Okay. Does that make sense?
Questions?
That's a lot of stuff, but
thanks, Phil.
Well, I think everybody's shaking their head except me, so I feel like I'm the only one that got lost there at the very end.
Okay.
So can you, so you want to, I'm not, and I'm sadly just went through this with my father-in-law, but I'm confused about the outer container that you're asking us
Hey,
to.
most cemeteries there's not a law in the state of South Dakota or anywhere that I am aware of that requires the use of an outer burial container. An outer burial container is around this neck of the woods, we call it a vault. But we don't use a vault. A vault means it seals. We use a cement box that does not. And the purpose of it is to keep the grave from sinking, okay, in the ground, okay? So in the north, we use them a lot because we have the shifting and so on and so forth. If you went to the south, there's a lot of cemeteries that don't have outer burial container requirements. In Sioux Falls, there's 4 major cemeteries, okay? 2 of them require outer burial containers, 2 of them do not, okay? You take the Islamic community, for example, they don't want an outer burial container, okay? They want the person to go right into the earth, not even in a casket, and so we accommodate that. But Hills of Rest and Mount Pleasant Cemetery don't have an outer burial container requirement. St. Michael and Woodlawn do. Okay, so there's others, of course, in Sioux Falls, but those are the major 4. I don't know if that answers your question. So what I'm proposing or asking you to consider is to remove that requirement from the county cemetery. Now, in the spring, might they need to go and top dress the grave? Probably. I don't know if you've ever been out there, but you know, years ago there was no outer burial container requirement anywhere, so.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Schmidt? Commissioner
Chair.
Barth?
So are there some legislative things that we should look at with this kind of issue? Because actually it was 5 years ago or so we proposed to the state that we only do cremation. And of course, many counties maybe do one every other year or something like that. And they felt that it might violate some individuals'
Rights, yeah.
plan for end of life. But, you know, the idea that you might be able to get some small additional amount. Back in that time, I remember a Pennington County commissioner told me they had paid for a burial, and suddenly there appeared a $6,000 headstone on the spot a month later. And that's not the kind of burial we want to be involved in. We are willing to partner with you and with the family to take care of this nitty-gritty situation.
It's a political hot potato, and I understand that, you know, cremation versus ground burial. But what the statute is so old, and it requires us to provide all of these things, even including even like, say, the opening and closing of the grave. Okay, so the opening and closing of the grave, the average in Sioux Falls is over $1,000. So you take $1,000, I mean, so that's the problem that we're running into, okay, is that it's costing us $500 to provide a funeral, okay, and the families can't contribute, okay, they can't contribute. Whereas you take Council Bluffs, for example, you get an immediate cremation only, that's it. If you apply and are accepted, that's it. It's an immediate cremation. You can do a self-directed, you know, memorial service if you want to. Minneapolis, they get a stipend towards whatever they want, and they can add up to another $2,000 to it, okay? But our statute doesn't allow for that, okay? So, yes, it's somebody needs to do the work to go into statute because the times have changed, okay? And in Sioux Falls, at least our 2 firms are, you know, about half of the people now choose cremation, okay, as the final form of disposition. About 80% of those are in fact buried or placed in a permanent place. So it's not, it doesn't replace the funeral. It's simply a process, like putting someone in a grave is a process, cremating them is a process. You still have to do something with them afterwards. Some people take them home, but most of them put them in a permanent place. So any service that we have at the county cemetery that's cremation, we bury. I mean, you know, if the family wants to take them home, they can certainly do that. But a lot of times, those immediate type services, there is nobody. There might be a friend or something like that. But, so it needs to be addressed, absolutely, at the,
Thank you.
legislatively, because it ties your hands and it ties our hands to provide a service.
Other questions? Commissioner Karski?
No question, but probably more of a comment. First of all, it's troubling that people have the means to pay but refuse, putting the burden back on the taxpayers of this county. And the second one would be that it is an issue of local control, and what's probably right for our county or what's best for our county and our taxpayers is not the same as what other counties may experience, you know, with maybe one or two or no burials in a year. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the funeral rate for 2017 as proposed.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Carrie, do you have comments, or you're just coming forward?
I'm just getting my stuff.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Phil, you might want to spend some time with Carol on how we could bring something to the legislature to talk about this, at least this year, I think, to get something started, because as you and I both know, it takes more than a year sometimes to get that rocking.
Yeah, and I'm also currently working with private counsel because one of the statutes is that you, a creditor, one of the things that we've done in the past is we look at people's assets and to determine if they can afford a funeral or not. And these are particularly in the cases of people that have passed away that there's no identifiable next of kin. Well, we need to wait 30 days. And so what we do is we take that person into our care and we keep their mortal remains for 30 days, okay, before we can get a peek at their assets by having ourselves named personal representative of the estate. Well, currently in the state of South Dakota, a creditor cannot be named personal representative of an estate. And we're working on introducing legislation this year that in these exceptions that we can be named so that we can look. And I will tell you, in the past, that has worked, where we keep someone for that period of time and then find assets, but we can't look for 30 days. So when that comes up, if you're asked, I would ask for your support on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I will work with Carol.
Thank you.
If she lets me in the office.
She will. Item number 11 is to approve the county commission minutes of 12/27.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Bills to be paid of $908,659.01.
Pay the bills.
I'll make a second one, just a comment.
Yes.
I just would note that that we paid a premium this month for work comp what we're approving is work comp premium of $417,629. We also paid property insurance of $110,000. So that was the bulk of the items that we're paying this particular time.
Bob, do you want to briefly discuss why it's that high?
Yes, I do. And then as Gene alluded to, those two payments that we made, they're annual ones, so they're somewhat of an anomaly. And then there was another one for Pesca Construction for the Fairgrounds project that was about $124,000. If you add those three up, it comes to $652,462. You subtract that from the number of the bills. The true bills without those in it would be $256,197. That'd be your regular bills. And, concerning the work comp, in years past, we've kind of hovered between that 365 and 380. The work comp premiums are computed using what's called our mod factor, the modification factor, and what that is the number of work comp claims and the severity of the claim adds to our work comp factor. And if you're around 100, That's the normal. A few years ago, we had it spiked up to over 5. And what that did was affected our mod factor. So what I'm telling you is if we have a good year this year and the claims are normal, we're probably going to drop back down under that $400,000 mark for work comp. And I would also tell you that this year, the work comp premium was about $30,000 less than we had budgeted for.
Other questions, Commissioner?
You said our work comp mod was, well, I know it starts at a 1.0. It went, what is our exact mod right now?
Right now, I'd have to go back and get that for you, Commissioner Karski, but it went up over 5 a couple of years ago. So I think we're on the 3rd year of that 5 being in there affecting our rate.
A 1.05, a 1.5?
No, 5.2.
Holy cow.
We had a couple of big ones in there that year.
Okay. I mean, I have never seen in my 28 years of insurance anything over a 1.5. For us to be over a 5, that's huge.
I know. When I went up, when I was in business, I went to 125 one time, and that put me in the risk pool.
Yes, exactly. So
But
I
I
don't
would
know what can be
anticipate-
done to look at that, but that's a huge number.
Yep.
Not only that, I think, in my experience, we now go back 5 years instead of the 3 years. Is that correct? On work comp-related claims to come up with the mod factor, if I remember right? That changed a couple, 3 years ago, and it automatically increased about everybody's insurance unless you had no exposure almost.
Well, if that applies to the county, and I assume it would, then yes, that would keep us, at higher premiums for a little bit longer than I'd anticipated.
Work comp is a major part of everybody's business these days. Any other questions about the bills? We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. There's no reports. Personnel. Consider a motion to approve the routine personal actions.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning, Carrie Deaver from Human Resources. I have a fairly length of significant anniversaries for you for January 2017, clearly a big hiring month for us. Starting out at 5 years of service, we have Joy West, who's a caseworker at Human Services, Michaela Gaska, Rebecca Fegan, John Olson, Alyssa Powell, and Lynn Hagenson, who are all Safe Home program workers at Safe Home. Timothy Rowland, who's a corporal at the jail, Andrew Berg, Nicholas Rebnor, Laura McDermott, Andrea Mitchell, and Chelsea Koof, who are correctional officers with the jail, and Corey Alexander, who's a deputy sheriff. Celebrating 10 years of service, we have Michael Newkirk, who's a correctional officer at the jail, and Carol James, who's a senior deputy state's attorney for the state's attorney's office. Now for 3 larger ones. We have Bradley Farniak, who's a corporal with the jail, celebrating 25 years of service. Alan Penning, who's a CO at the jail, celebrating 30 years of service. And Daphne Hansen, who's our senior accounting technician at the sheriff's office, celebrating 40 years of service. Whenever I see those larger numbers, I'm just shocked. That's fantastic.
I don't think there's anybody here.
Nope, not today.
They're all working. Thank you, Carrie, and thank you, obviously, to the volunteers and the employees. That's awesome. Thank you.
For the last item that I have for you is to record the volunteers for county departments for December 2016. 266 volunteers again for December 2016 in 9 different areas of county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 15, there are no applications for abatement, no notices and requests, no planning and zoning notices, no petitions for compromise. Now we have an opportunity for public comment on anything that's not on the agenda. Mr. Colby?
Colby, local citizen. Congratulations to the 2 who were sworn in this morning. Sitting here brought back a couple of thoughts that had crossed my mind. Years ago, I was the highest paid teacher out of the class that graduated in 1956. I received $5,500 for that teaching year, and it it's really not what the numbers are, it's what they do for you, because that good Iowa farmland was selling for $350 an acre. The reason I come before you is this is the only time during the year where you have two different groups of people, one taking an oath and the other one standing and making a pledge. And I guess we could say that it was Commissioner Barth who suggested that the county commission open the meeting with a pledge of allegiance, which is kind of an interesting thing if you ever look at the history of the pledge, and thought that I might give you a little more information on that. It's always edifying. It was originally put together by two different people. One of them was a colonel from the Civil War in 1887, and the other was Francis Bellamy, who was a Socialist Baptist minister, both of which were somewhat bigoted in their opinions because they wanted to make sure that these new immigrant children were pledging their allegiance to the new country and not to the country that they had come from. Both of them had a pledge that appeared in the Youth Companion magazine because they wanted to get it out to the general public. It was interesting, and they did the pledge so that it could be done by any country, not necessarily the United States. It was a generic pledge, and every country could use such. In 1923, we added the flag of the United States of America to the pledge. And when Eisenhower was in president, we added "under God," as the Congress wanted to separate the United States from the heathen Russian communists. Now, some of you may not realize that when the pledge was originally said, you put your hand over your heart, and about halfway through, you put your hand out and put the hand with the palm raised toward the flag. That was rescinded during World War II because it tended to resemble a little bit too much of the Heil Hitler sort of gesture. Now, it was, at one point, people were trying to mandate that you say the pledge. You had to say the pledge. Well, Chief Justice William O. Douglas wrote the opinion that said, you cannot mandate because we have freedom of speech. We even had one of our legislators, I think it was Hal Wick, who wanted to mandate that every student say the pledge every day. And part of the freedom of speech allows a person to not say the pledge and allows the person to even take a knee at the national anthem during a football game, and they have as much right to do that as the person has to complain about what's going on. So, with that in mind, we discussed that at that bench at one time, and someone said, well, would you change it? And I said, yes. And they said, would you make it, do you think you could do a better one? Well, I don't know if it's better, but I could come up with one. I think there would be more of an oath for the citizenry, because two people here this morning took an oath to serve the public. But it would seem reasonable that the public should also take an oath. And I would suggest something like this. I pledge allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America. I pledge to support the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of peaceful assembly. I shall fight all foes of the United States, either foreign or domestic. May the flag of the United States of America long wave over the land of the free and home of the brave. Because no pledge, people take the pledge as sacred, but the flag is a symbol. We have 400,000 people in the 400 million people in the United States, and you have 400 million different ideas of what the flag is. If you take it to a central figure such as the Constitution, we all support the Constitution. The President supports the U.S. Constitution. The two who took it this morning support the U.S. Constitution and the South Dakota Constitution. Fixed points that can be looked at and determine what they mean. The flag, though each of us are patriotic, we cannot define the flag in such a way that everybody agrees on it. If we use the Constitution as the center point, we have a point from which we can all make an agreement. The U.S. forces that go overseas, they fight to support the Constitution. The flag is the symbol. A flag is a symbol. The Constitution is hardcore written fact that we use people to determine what the Constitution says. With that in mind, just as a comment, because today is the only day in the year where people will stand and say the pledge, and people will take the oath. And I always think, after having taken the oath a time or two myself, I think the oath is more important because it is a center point of which I don't feel I am compelled to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I have taken the oath. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opportunities for public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to regular business. Item 19 is to authorize the chair to sign a 2017 MOU between Minnehaha County and SDSU Extension for 4-H and youth programming. Mr. Wilson.
Morning again, Commissioners. Robert Wilson. And this morning we have for your consideration here the 2017 agreement between the county and SDSU Extension for 4-H and youth program services. Looking for your authorization to sign this MOU. The agreement was prepared by SDSU Extension and has been reviewed by the State's Attorney's Office. The major terms of the agreement include that SDSU will provide full-time salary and benefit support for one full-time 4-H youth advisor to work 100% in Minnehaha County. And Minnehaha County will pay SDSU Extension for a partial 50% salary support of a second 4-H youth advisor, which will also work in Minnehaha County. And that amount will be for $18,870. That's up slightly from $18,320 last year. That is what we are looking for your consideration of today is this MOU, and there's included for your review is the MOU document itself as well as an invoice there. Just as some background information that I also provided for you is some of the other support that county provides for extension through the year. You provide a little over $48,000 in salary and benefits for administrative support for 4-H youth advisors, and you provide just under $28,000 for 4-H youth advisor travel expenses, office supplies, equipment, postage, educational supplies, related charges. Again, your annual budget for extension for 2017 is $96,851. And again, what we're looking for your consideration on this morning is just the MOU with SDSU Extension for that amount of $18,320.
Chair, I'd make a motion to authorize you to sign this agreement, but I do have a comment.
A second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Barth?
You know, there are quite a few of the 4-H clubs and extension things that take place within the city of Sioux Falls. I think even the majority of them do, and yet apparently the city doesn't support them at all. I sort of wish that they would. That's my comment.
Any other comments?
I would just reiterate that since we have two full-time staff working over there, the 4-H groups have grown significantly in the last 2.5 years, and it's a much more stable program again.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask Commissioner Heiberger, do you happen to remember the number of how many clubs are in Sioux Falls and how many are, Garrett's and?
I don't right off the top of my head, but they have continued to improve the clubs and make more clubs, but they're also working with a lot of different school districts. So, and not just in Sioux Falls, but also outside of the city of Sioux Falls, so.
Other questions? If not, we have a motion and a second to approve the contract or MOU. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Item 20 is an annual review of the Minnehaha County Facility Power Outage Response Protocol.
Again, Robert Wilson with the Commission Office. Just giving you a little background on this policy protocol. Over the summer of 2011, we had 2 or 3 power outages here that affected different buildings across the county campus that were for a extended period of time, but we didn't know exactly how long. And there were some questions of how to operate in that time frame, and that was really the push to create this protocol. It was approved in November of 11 and took effect in January of 2012. And one of the provisions of this this policy is that it's reviewed annually. And in anticipation of this action and coming forward to speak with you on this morning, it's also been provided to all department heads. The language of this power outage response protocol is part of the policies and procedures manual that's available on the intranet, and all employees have access to it. Really runs through the procedures of what will take place in the event of a power outage and on campus. I will can run through the details at any level of detail you wish to. The one thing that we always like to point out is one section towards the back of the policy, that it's the next to the last page, that says if there is an outage that is expected to be will last 1 hour or more at the call of the chair, the county can be closed, subject to callback if there is time remaining at the end of the day after the power has been fully restored. And upon that callback, employees who may have been dismissed do need to come back and return to work to fulfill that end of the day. That's one element of it that we always like to highlight. I would be more than happy to go through any other details of the policy if you would like. Otherwise, we offer that for your review.
Any questions of Robert?
I just make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the power outage policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Item 21 is a briefing on the treasurer's bond requirements and coverage. Carol.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carol Muller. Before you is, we are asking for your recognition to not renew a bond that has been in place for a long period of time, and I think the material we've put together explains that this is, at this point now, a duplicative bond. Since 1993, Minnehaha County has purchased a public employees blanket bond with a rider for an additional indemnity of $75,000 for the treasurer. They purchased that in response to SDCL 7-11-2. Recently, South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance, of which we are members and have been for several years, has added an enhanced crime coverage program which cover all full-time employees, part-time employees, and elected appointed officials. Minnehaha County purchased this policy in 2016 at a cost of $360. In comparison, the bond that you have is slightly over $1,000. We put together, I included a sheet from SDPAA that states that the Municipal League successfully worked with the 2015 legislature for passage of a statute allowing the purchase of a blanket coverage to satisfy statutory bond requirements of local government entities. And we have met that with the bond coverage, with the enhanced crime coverage through SDPAA. With this coverage purchase, the separate public employees bond with that rider for treasurer attached to this memo would be duplicative coverage. So we would ask for you to put put into a motion that this bond is no longer required and that we would not renew this.
Any questions for Carol?
Mr. Chair, so this saves us $75,000?
No.
No, about 700.
Oh, 700, okay.
150.
But you go from about $75,000 to $1 million in coverage. That's the biggest difference.
And the state's attorney's okay with this?
Yes, I reviewed everything that was put forth by SDPAA as well as our previous documents, and our coverage will comply with statute even if this additional bond is rescinded. Of course, I got to mention, you can bond additionally for the treasurer if you elect to do so, but I don't see any compelling reason in this case to exceed the coverage that you have through the blanket bond authorized by statute.
Commissioner Karski?
This action makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate you bringing it to us so we can take it. I hope that we pass it. My question, I think it's related. Does the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance offer a cyber liability coverage? Have we taken advantage of any of that type of thing? Has it been looked
They
at?
do, and I cannot tell you off the top of my head if we have that or not, but we can look into it. I'll double check
In
that.
today's world, I think it'd be, very prudent action for us to take a look at that, so thank you.
I think most coverages for that are included in the commercial liability package, but I'm not sure about that.
Typically an option.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to rescind this, the bond.
Second.
We have a motion to rescind the bond. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Thank you. Item number 22 is liaison reports. Are there any liaison reports? Old business. New business. Mr. Litz.
Good morning, Commissioner. Bob Litz from the Auditor's Office again, and I just wanted to remind this body that tonight at 4 o'clock, Mr. Bill Hoskins will be giving a museum archives update to the City Council at their informational meeting. I'm going to be in attendance there too, so if that interests you, we'd invite your attendance.
Thank you. I believe at the end of the month, there's a joint meeting addressing that also, if that's correct. No, is there an exec committee or not? Okay.
Just going to make one more new business, which I think everyone's well aware of, is that we will have new liaison assignments in the next couple of weeks. And just for all department heads that are watching, I'm assuming they're not completed yet, but they will be out in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. So if you don't have yours in, like I don't.
Mine are done.
We'd like to have them by the end of the week for sure. With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion unanimously passes. Thank you.